Welcome back, guys and gals, this week for another Haunted Gaming. This week I'll be talking about Halo 3 Half-Blood, the Special Gift. The story starts out like always with an unnamed person who, like always, I'll be referring to as Player since there is no name given. Player tells us he is an avid Halo 3 glitcher. So the player tells us that there is a glitch in Halo 3 that allows the player to resurrect dead allies and enemies in the game as the Flood, while retaining their original appearance. If you don't know what the Flood is, it's an infectious parasitic being in the Halo series that can infect its victims and control them, sort of like zombies. The player decided to call these glitched characters half-Floods, due to their nature, being half-living and half-blood. Makes sense? As the player played around with this glitch, he noticed that the elite characters that were, once they turned half-blood, were far weaker than anything in the game, which is odd considering the elites are the most powerful soldiers in all of the Halo series, and in Halo 3 especially. And it's weird seeing them to be the most weakest. If you don't know what the elites are, they're the most powerful Halo 3 soldiers. Most powerful soldiers in the Halo universe on the Covenant or the alien side. So a little history lesson aside there. So what the player was interested in was there was a message on the backs of these half-bloods after killing them. So when the player killed them, the backs of these half-blood creatures, these glitched half-bloods, formed bubbles. And the player kept on noting the positions of these bubbles for months and months, until eventually he deciphered a message that said, "Do it live." So the player believed, he would have to go on Xbox Live, which, if you don't know what it is, it's an online service for the Xbox 360 that allows you to play, online games and whatnot, like PlayStation Network and, I believe it's Nintendo Zone for Nintendo consoles. So the player was confused as nothing happened when he connected to Xbox Live and realized it must have meant to do this glitch, this half-blood glitch, on a living ally or enemy, than to do it on a dead one like he'd been constantly doing. So the player did some more testing at midnight and even perfected his strategy of performing this glitch by using some convoluted method that I'm not going to get into because I think if I do it's going to take all night and we're all going to have migraines. So once the player completed this glitch on a living subject with the use of his methods, this convoluted method, the bubbles on the back formed a different message this time that stated, "Now try elite." So the player then, commenced to try the glitch on his elite allies in the game. The player also noticed some weird events happening in the game, such as snowing, which doesn't happen at all in the game, and I can confirm it doesn't happen. So the player believed this was just some glitch. And he also told us that his copy of Halo 3 was used, so somebody before was obviously using the copy. So the player decided to take a break after all these weird glitches and decided to get something to eat. So after 20 minutes, the player returned back to the game to basically see the objective screen filled with half-blood related objectives. So the player was scared, but he still continued. The player looked around in the game and noticed basically some Flood characters moving around the, map in a glitched fashion. So the player finally noticed a half-Flood elite after all of his attempts, he noticed that when the elite had gotten in a vehicle in the game, the elite basically turned around and said to the player, "How does it feel to be dead?" Wait, don't answer that. That's what the elite said. So the player was scared, but remember that even in the actual game, the elite said that to the enemies, and even players who gave them shitty weapons. I can't confirm this, I've never heard elites say that in the game, but, I would probably have to check that again. You guys can answer it if you know more. So yeah. The player was scared, but remember that even in the actual game, the elite said, that to the enemies, sorry. The player noticed up close that the eyes of the half-blood elite were black to the core, and out of nowhere a loud, inhuman, blood-curdling scream came out of nowhere. The player also said that he didn't have the TV volume on at all. Okay, I don't know how that sound would form, but whatever. The player looked at the half-blood elite and saw that his mouth was open to the point where it looked as if the jaws had been snapped open completely, and the face of the elite looked more like a human face that was smiling. Suddenly the elite went calm and died, and then later resurrected and killed the player's character in the game, which is odd since the player said that he had modded his save file so that he would have infinite health in the game. And before you guys ask if he had a modded Xbox, you can actually do these save file hacks using a USB flash drive on a unmodded Xbox. It's not really difficult. You know, you can do it. There's certainly tutorials on the internet. I don't say do it because you could get banned and whatnot, but yeah, it's possible to do it on an unmodded Xbox. So anyways, you know, the game basically gave the player a checkpoint, and the player respawned shortly before his death in the game. So the player saw the Half-Blood Elite once more, except this time the Half-Blood Elite's armor looked blood red, I mean like crimson red, and had gray eyes. The player desperately decided to kill the Elite but couldn't, and realized that the Half-Blood Elite was invincible. So the player then decided to run away from the Half-Blood Elite in the game, and as the player kept on running, he encountered a tank, which had a friendly human marine already controlling it. So the player was relieved to see a friendly character, and basically headed towards the friendly marine. The marine fired the tank's cannon at the Half-Blood Elite, but didn't end up killing him. The Half-Blood Elite just went up to the marine and killed him. And the marine, before dying, said, "Why? Why didn't you set me free earlier? I was waiting for you." The player then kept on running away from the Half-Blood Elite until the player couldn't control the game anymore. The player's weapons disappeared and he was kneeling in the game. The player couldn't tell since he was watching this in a first-person viewpoint in the game. The Half-Blood Elite stabbed the player's character in the game, and the character the player was playing as, by the way, is Master Chief, if you guys were wondering. And if you don't know who he is, he's the main protagonist in the Halo series. So basically the player was able to see Chief's intestines flipping out and blood gushing everywhere, and then it was over. The Half-Blood Elite killed the player's character, Master Chief, and the game returned to the main menu. And then the player just started to feel tired and he passed out, and woke up several hours later wondering if it was a dream. The player went back and loaded up Halo 3 and checked through all the recently saved gameplay in the in-game theater option. Basically, the in-game theater option allows you to replay saved games and, see them play out, in a theater mode, similar to Call of Duty, if you guys were wondering, or Uncharted. And, every time the player found this saved game, this saved theater file, and tried to open it up, but the game just couldn't load it up, it just failed. So the player received a message from Bungie, the game's developers, and in the letter it said, "Dear player, we hope you enjoyed finding our most kick-ass secret. As a reward for your testing and dedication, take this exclusive Elite armor as a token of our appreciation." The player checked the in-game armor given to him by Bungie, and as the player checked the in-game description for the armor, it said, die to live, kill to love. The armor itself was also very disturbing because it composed of skulls that all smiled. The player wondered to himself, what sick freak put this into a game? Wow, this is a pretty good creepypasta. Really, it's long and it's well written. And the thing is, it's really inaccessible. That's the only problem I have. I mean, I had a hard time wrapping my head around some of the glitches this guy was doing, and I really wasn't aware of them, and I couldn't really grasp what, the player was trying to do. I researched on the internet, and this half-flood glitch actually exists, but I could only find it on, brutes. A brute is a character, an alien character in Halo, if you didn't know, but I could only find this half-flood glitch working on brute characters. I didn't really find anything about half-flood elites. The only picture I could find was something provided by the player, with a picture here that you're seeing on the screen. That was provided by the player. But, it could happen to elites, but I don't see any other, I don't see people doing it with elites. I don't see any, screenshots of it or anything on the internet that I could really find. But, so as far as I can tell, this half-flood elite thing is fake so far. Now, I mean, the player did say the copy was used, so the previous owner could have hacked a copy and put this type of, hack in. But if you look at it, Halo 3 hacks aren't even at a stage where they're close to having in-game cutscenes and intestines and all that. It doesn't seem possible. But then again, hackers could do technically anything to a game. I mean, we've seen tons of hacks that have been impressive so far, conversions of games and whatnot. But Halo 3 has not been hacked to my knowledge this extensively, so I don't think it's real. Now, I mean, and if it was real, I mean, don't you think the player would have made videos of it? Well, the player did make a video of it, but guess what? Every time I go onto that YouTube channel, the uploader conveniently terminated his or her account. So I guess the video is lost in space. I tried searching for it everywhere. I couldn't find this video. And I guess if I did, it probably would be fake too. But yeah, that's all I could really find. Now, the player claims in the creepypasta that he, got this message from Bungie. Now, if you were to get a message from Bungie, the only times I could recollect that Bungie would send out messages was when they gave away the special recon armor to special players of Halo's community. Now, if Bungie did send out some new creepy smiling skull armor to this player, wouldn't it have been all over the internet? I mean, if I got this armor, I would have spread it all over the internet. I would have taken pictures, posted it all over various sites, but this guy didn't. So, seems legit, right? I don't know. But that's all I really have to say. And if Bungie did put something like this in their game, don't you think hackers would have figured it out by now? I don't know. But that's all I really got to say, though. I don't think it's real. That's all. And, if any sane person got something like this, they would have posted it on the internet. But if it's real or fake, I can't really tell. In the end, it's a good creepypasta and it's well written. And that's all I really have to say. You have to check it out. Links in the description. It's good, fairly written, creepy, but if you ask me if it was real, no, it's fake. But that's not really what a creepypasta is about. It's entertaining. That's all. Well, guys and gals, this has been another episode of Haunted Gaming. If you like what you saw, like, comment, and subscribe for more videos, and look forward to our canceled gaming series on Monday, where we'll be taking a look at Earthbound 64. This is Some Ordinary Gamers, out.